everybody. Robin here, and welcome back to Toadstool Tarot. Give me just a second. I didn't adjust my sound this morning, so I don't know if I'm loud enough. Let me see if this helps. That's the best I can do. So, let's see. Is anybody here? Yes. Hello, Heather and Red Wing. I hope everybody is doing well wherever you are in the world. Slightly warmer today than it was the last couple of days. It was in the 20s and wind chill below that. Today, I think it's in the 30s or 40s, so much better, much warmer. My apartment is rather drafty. Whoever moved in before me many years ago exposed the brick wall, which also meant that it took some insulation out. And when it's windy out, the draft comes right through the wall. But I have a little space heater by my bed behind me, which comes in handy. So, I want to welcome you all here. I hope everybody is, let's see, Heather, 30s here in Niagara Falls with sunshine and blue skies. It does look cozy here, and it is cozy if I wrap up in blankets or a sweatshirt or something. I don't feel too bad at the moment. I'm in a t-shirt. Hi, Ange. So, today, the topic I had, these little things kind of come to me as I'm contemplating things throughout the week. And somehow I thought of tarot this week as a tower. I want you to think about that. Think of the tarot, the whole deck, as the tower card encapsulated. Now, we can look at that on a lot of different levels, and I want you to pop into the chat, if you will, your keywords or association with the tower card. Because, let me find a deck. All right, I'll just use this one. So we have a deck in a box. It's a monolithic box, like a tower. We take the lid off. We take the cards out. There's 78 cards. Each of the cards is like a brick in the foundation of the tower. And we are like masons constructing the tower. Every time we shuffle, every time we turn cards to the deck, we re-envision, revitalize the tower, rebuild the tower. We shuffle it up, we shake it up, we lay out a spread. We look at the changes that it suggests or imposes on us. Hi, SCB. And we adjust our paths accordingly. So I think this is very much like a tower in a way. And I know a lot of people look at the tower as a negative card. But the tower really is an important card, because without it, our foundations remain the same without change, and life is change. We need the change. Now, sometimes we don't want to change. I never want to change, but we have to in order to move ahead. sometimes things happen to change things for us. Like we won't do it for ourselves, so the cosmos comes along and rattles our tower, strikes it with lightning, shakes us down. Then we have to rebuild. Or sometimes we're the ones that like need to investigate the foundation, make sure it's solid enough. See, there's no cracks or faults or flaws. Or maybe knock some wings out and, rebuild one brick at a time. So anyway, sorry, just finished eating an apple and there's still little bits in my teeth. So sometimes we need to like work with the cards to figure out the best way to rebuild our tower. Or sometimes we abandon the tower altogether and just walk away. But I sort of like the idea or metaphor or whatever you call it of the tarot deck as a tower. Now, we might investigate this in future weeks, other cards that the deck might encapsulate. But for today, we're just looking at the tower. I'm thinking about the past year. When we get in December, we start doing year's end review. And think about how this may have been a tower year for us. The kinds of things that we've been forced to deal with that institute change in our institutions and our beliefs, and the everyday things that we have to deal with. I just want to glance back here. We got some keywords for the tower: rebuilding, redesigning, necessary destruction, awakening, shake-up, renovation. So I'm going to show you a couple of cards just so, to remind you what the tower looks like. This is a sort of a typical kind of classic Marseille tower that's being struck by, well, looks like fierce winds or some sort of violence from above. People falling from the tower. I don't know what all those little bubbles are in the sky. Maybe somebody knows, having read something about tarot history, and why those appear or what they represent. Design-wise, I like them and I like the colors. But it does just sort of look like random energy, maybe atoms bouncing around or something. Here we've got a slightly different version. That was actually from the Tarot de Marcella Robledo. It's a very nice. I don't know if it's still available. I had to send to Argentina for it. If you like Marseille decks, it's my favorite Marseille deck. Now, this is the Old Fellow Tarot based on the what's it called now? Oh, it'll come to me in a minute. It's a Japanese deck. Why is it slipping my mind? I know it so well. Anyway, it's kind of like a cross between the RWS and the Marseille. They took the Marseille style imagery and applied it to an RWS format. But the majors pretty much stick with the Marseille representation. Here's the classic one from Rider-Waite-Smith. And here we have the tower struck by lightning. Here's my deck, Open Face Tarot. There's my tower. just simplified. There's a crack in it. Here we have one by a deck, a very expensive independent deck I found at MPC that I like, by an Asian, or Russia. Is Russia Asia? I guess it is. I think he might be Russian artist. And I like this one because it's kind of like kids building blocks falling down. It's called the Kalma Tarot, Kalma. It's a majors only, and there's no labels on the cards, but they're all really easy to see which cards they are. The backs don't really go, I don't think, with the fronts, but I really like the colors and the simplification of the design. And then we have the golden Worth. I almost said Thoth. The Golden Worth Tarot, with a little bit of glitz and bling. And this one sort of tries to follow the Marseille styling too. Now, through most of the decks, I always used to look at the Tower card as a sort of a victim card or victimization. And until I came across this deck, the Everyday Witch. Many of you know it. It's a very familiar and very, very popular deck. And there were several cards in this deck that entirely changed my notions about the tarot and how to read them. And one of them was the Tower. And I really love this card, this version, because you see this witch has a wand in her hand, and her tower hasn't fallen down. She has taken the tower down. So she's not a victim at all. She's taking control over this tower. And it redefined my personal definitions of the Tower as shake it up, or shake things up. Or if you follow Taylor Swift, maybe shake it off. I don't know. But the idea is, if things are too stagnant and fate doesn't come to shake our world, maybe we need to be the ones to take control and give it a good shake. Take yourself by the shoulders, give you a good shake, and it's like, it's time to change. It's time to do something. So I like that in terms of giving power back to the reader, as opposed to making them the victim, giving them some authority or some power in charge of their future, their actions, in terms of the Tower card. So, yeah, I think, next time I design a deck, and it's long term, I don't know when I'm going to begin it, but I think there's a few cards in the deck that I'm going to change. And I'm going to change the approach and the name of the cards. And the three that are going to be changed are the ones that are probably the most negative cards in the deck. I'm going to change the Devil, the Death card, and the Tower. And I will probably rename them. Now, I have to think long and hard about what one word I want to rename them to. I want it to be something that's readily identifiable with what came before, but at the same time, take much of the negativity out of it and give it a positive spin. So usually the Death card is equated with transformation. So that might be the transformation card. For me, the Devil is temptation, so that may be renamed the temptation card. In terms of the tower, I'm not sure what word I want to use. No, I don't know if change is strong enough, because change is very similar to transformation. And the death card and the tower card both sort of require some degree of changing things, evolving, moving on, but they're not really the same. The death card seems to come sort of naturally as death comes to us all. The tower is almost like artificially induced, or an unprepared change, unexpected change. The tower is unexpected change. The death card, sometimes it's unexpected, sometimes we can see it coming. And in the typical rider waite card, we see it riding towards us on a horse, and sort of like dividing the water, separating the path of people in the path in front of us, so that it can continue moving forward. So they feel really different to me, even though both of them do a similar thing. So yeah, I don't know if you guys have other ideas that you want to bring into the discussion about the tower, or tarot as tower. I like the idea of a tower being a foundation, as tarot is a foundation. Tarot as a system is a foundation. The cards are mutable, shiftable, but as a system, the system is really solid. It's got a solid foundation. It's very hard to break the foundation. And people do often try to reinvent tarot, or sometimes they don't even attempt to, they just create oracle. So it's not the same system at all. I think the tarot as a system gives me a sense of confidence. It's something I can rely on, lean on. It's a solid foundation, like we all want our towers to be. We want to build on a solid foundation. Heather says towers can be seen as a prison as well, destroying what we imprison ourselves in, again, taking back our power in the process. SCB says maybe the path unchosen card for your tarot. Possibly. I like to keep it to single words if I can, the way the archetypes generally are. And there are a few that are more than one word, like the Hanged Man, but I feel like they're stronger when it's one solid word. Yeah. So yeah, the tower can be a prison. It can hold us prisoners. I think sometimes when we build our foundations too securely, that we tend to not want to move on, or make changes. And sometimes we need to break out of our prison, or we need somebody to help us break out of our prison in order to escape what's keeping us in the same place and move forward. Okay. I'm not quite sure what else I want to talk about today. It was sort of a bite-sized concept that I scribbled down on an empty envelope, the tarot as a tower. And it was something I wanted to think about. This is something you can do with your cards too at home. if you go through the deck and any of the cards bring to mind a particular concept, jot it down, journal on it. I probably should have done a little bit more homework in mapping out other thoughts I had on it. I did put down the word here, Masons, because there's a sort of a sense of Masonic temples and the Masons being involved in, ancient mystery, mystique, alchemy, divination, dark arts, whatever you want, magic, that they sort of built into the mystery of these sort of monolithic structures, like obelisks and towers and castles, grave structures, mounds, and so forth. But yeah, I just jotted down the keywords: foundation, stability, grounding, Masons, brick by brick, monolithic. Now, I have in the past compared tarot to a book, the tarot deck to a book. And books can be sort of monolithic and tower-like, and you read a book and you gain information, and that can change you intellectually. It can change your feelings and opinions about things. And the tarot is sort of a book of 78 pages that can be shuffled and redefined into a million different stories. Sometimes you might want to just sit down and start pulling cards off the top of the deck and write your own story. I've done that with the major arcana, actually. I've done readings where I can go through the entire 22 cards without a problem and relate a story. And the story basically is the Fool's Journey, but the Fool's Journey can be told many different ways. And that's the strength, I think, of the major arcana. Now, I've not tried to do it with all 78 cards. That might prove interesting to sit down and try to fashion a 78-page story from the 78 cards in the deck. Storytelling has become popular with a few readers in the community, says Heather. Yeah, and at one point, people were talking about using tarot cards as prompts for creative writing. And I actually did a few of those older videos, if you go back through my channel, where I pulled 3 cards or 5 cards and then created a short story or fairy tale or fable out of the sequence of the cards. And that can be a fun sort of game to play, and a challenging game, and a good exercise if you're a creative writer. I think I'm going to cut the group short today. We're almost to a half an hour, and I don't really have anything else to talk about. So I think I might just end it here. Heather had a show for a while where Jeff and she would write poetry based on cards pulled for chatters. It was a lot of fun. So we're gearing up towards Christmas. I want you to keep in mind this notion of gifting and what gifts you might bring to others. You might, if you're a reader, you might offer readings. And reflect on gifts given to you, and not necessarily gifts that come from a store or gifts that you want to receive, but gifts from the world around us. When you step out in the world, or even in your home, look around and feel gratitude and grace for the fact that you've got four walls and a roof over your head and food in your pantry to put on your table, that you even have a table and a chair to sit at the table, and family or friends to share your good fortune with. So yeah, I'm gonna let it go at that. But this is a good time of year to reflect. I'm planning on doing in the next week or two my year's end review. I think Kelly Bear did a top 10 decks of the year, and a lot of channels do, and a lot of channels use only the decks they've acquired that year. I'm going to have to expand that because I have not acquired 10 decks this year, I don't believe. And so I'm going to go with sort of my top 10 most used decks this year, because I have top 10 favorite decks of all time, but sometimes they shift with time in terms of their usage. Like even though they're all-time favorites, others come along that I'm currently more interested in or I tend to use more often. So I can think of one or two that used to be number one on my list have completely drifted slowly down off the list entirely. Some that have moved upward, or I should say downward on the list, so that I don't use them as often anymore, but they're still favorites. One that was a number one is probably down near an 8, 9, or 10. I don't know. But I'm probably going to take a slightly different approach from Kelly Bear in that I'm going to do, there will be several in there that I acquired this year, but there also are going to be ones that I use every day, to ones every few days, to ones, maybe once or twice a month or once every several months. I do tend to have decks that are in kind of in rotation, and they find favor for a while, and then others come along and they sort of drift aside as new concepts present themselves, or new kinds of imagery or new approaches. And I guess that could be sort of a tower moment too, when we equate the idea of decks as towers, are individual towers in terms of their usage. We can tear them down or remodel them by shuffling the cards, mixing up the bricks, pulling the bricks out, leaving all the bricks out except the chosen few that have fallen in a certain arrangement. Comes to mind also how people draw cards for their spreads, because I tend to shuffle them and just pull off the top of the deck. I see a lot of people fan decks and then they're magnetically drawn to a particular one. I watched a video this morning and somebody fanned a deck and she chose the card that was the most exposed. When you fan the deck, they don't all fan evenly, and maybe there's one card that shows more of its back than the others. She draws those out. I thought that was interesting. And then there are other people that cut the deck. They'll shuffle and they won't draw off the top. They'll cut and then they'll pull the card where the cut is, and they will keep cutting and do their spreads that way. I thought that was kind of interesting. So as you're thinking about tarot as a tower, think about it in terms of relating to the system, but also in the makeup of the deck, being cards in a deck, bricks in a wall, stones in a wall. What what it builds, what are the parts that make the whole, that make it complete. Just, meditate on that a bit. And I'll leave you with that gift, shall we say. And I hope to see you all next week. Instigators of change. That's how I feel the tarot can be, says Dulcie. Okay, thank you all, and I'll see you next week. Bye.